this is an opportunity for me to just say thank you, guys. Like I shared a little bit in the team meeting, I have an opportunity for the last 6 years to work with some of the most incredible people around. And I think a lot of times you might not understand that because we're in the weeds, we're in the fog a lot, trying to work through deals and those types of things. But you guys are counselors, you guys are business owners, you're innovators, you're problem solvers, and you're willing to work with any type of person in our community. So you're people who go outside the boundaries. And I want to encourage you guys to even go farther with the impact that you have on my community. So this is partially for me. And it's one of the reasons I invited Teresa to come in. Teresa, as you can see in her bio, you guys have seen, the bio for me is what gets people here, but it's not necessarily why I asked her to come. After meeting with Teresa, Teresa is somebody who lives a real life. She's not going to share things that she isn't interactively experiencing. She knows a lifetime of experience in the real world, not just business, personal, and all the challenges that we all face. And I really appreciate that about her. So thank you guys for giving your time, and hopefully there's a return on your investment for being here. And I just want to say thank you, and I'm going to hand that over to her.
Thank you very much. Thank you. A lifetime of experience. I think that was a polite way of calling me old. It's funny what we hear, right? What we think of ourselves when we hear people talk about us. The most awkward part of speaking is that part right there, right, Frank? You're standing in the corner and somebody's talking about you, and I don't know if it's always uncomfortable. So what I want you to do this morning, we're going to take a few minutes, and hopefully, like I said, you'll walk away with something that you didn't have before you came. If you didn't, then you had an hour to sit and relax, okay? But hopefully that will something I say, some bit of wisdom, tidbit of knowledge, you will go, oh, yeah, I've got one takeaway. That's really all that matters. Yeah. Quite frankly, we usually can't take more than 3 takeaways at a time. If you pay attention to speakers, a lot of times they give you 3 points. In school, they give you 3 points. It's because really that's all one can remember at a time. So if you get one thing, I've done my job and it's been a good morning. So thank you for being here. I want you to turn to someone and just smile.
You knew it.
Hi. So what's that do?
It
Endorphins?
flows the good vibe.
Yeah,
They're contagious.
That's true.
exactly. So often, I'll never forget, I did this speech for a large community childcare place in Orlando. There were 250 childcare workers. And it was, you could tell in the room, they did not feel like they influenced anyone. Because they're, and that's, I won't get off on the soapbox, but people that take care of our children are some of the lowest paid, blah, blah, blah. So they don't feel always appreciated. That's a hard job. I worked for the YMCA. I did 1 year of childcare, and I called my boss and said, this is not for me. I go home and I don't like my own children. So they just did not feel that. It's very normal. They just did not feel like they influenced anyone. And they influence the most important people in our world. But it's not just them that feels that way. Many of us feel that way. That we're not making a difference in someone's life. We're not influencing anyone. And we all are. That simple smile that you give to your coworker or to the clerk at the grocery store or just a person you pass in the street, assuming we're not doing this, make eye contact and smile and see what happens. See what happens. If you consciously do that, you're influencing someone's day because you can't smile at somebody without them smiling back most of the time. Right. But most of the time they smile back. But influence is just about having the power to change and affect someone. Now, I like to add is the ability to change, the power to change and affect someone positively. And that's what we're going to mostly focus on today. There are ways that we can affect or influence people negatively. Force, intimidation, I'm the boss, it's my way or the highway, those type of things. But today, we're going to talk about what are those positive ways. I'm listening to a podcast now about the science of happiness. And this lady goes into companies and teaches happiness.
Thanks.
And she's made an amazing living off of teaching happiness. She went to Denmark and got a degree or certification in the art of happiness. So she's a certified happiness person. And it's not the Harvard lady. I took that course. That's who I thought it was at first, but it's not. I took her course during the pandemic. I sent my mom and my kids my certificate. I said, I'm certified happy person. We're like, really? But yeah, it's not her, but she started the whole movement. Yeah, and that's a good, I can't call her name right now.
I don't either.
It's
But-
a gentleman actually from Harvard.
There's a
So
lady that started teaching it in the classes,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
she started doing a
John
course.
Anchor wrote the Happiness Advantage, and he went to Harvard as well and does all the back end
Yes.
psychological research on happiness.
Right.
He spoke at Family Reunion last year.
But this lady brought it to the mainstream, yeah, because it became a big deal when she taught it. But today, what I want you to do, well, no, we're not. Okay, what I want you to do is look right here at this card. And we put them at every other table, or every other seat. But if you don't have one at your seat, you grab one.
Let me know if you don't have it, just raise your hand.
So I think we've probably already established this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Where does influence begin?
Yourself, yeah.
Tell me more. Why? Why is that your answer?
Comes from how you feel about yourself, how you view yourself, and how you think the world perceives you.
What else?
You have control over that.
What is it?
Think that you have control on over how you influence yourself. Absolutely. And we have that decision to make every single morning that we open our eyes. Do we open our eyes and say, I'm ready to get up and start my day? Or do we say, oh, good, it's another day? And that sets how we influence ourselves for that day. So every day we can decide how we're going to influence ourselves. Because until we influence ourselves, we're not going to be that good, positive influence for someone else. It starts with us. You know, I know you've all heard the oxygen mask theory, you know, in a plane. There's a reason you put it on you first. It's not always our tendency to take care of ourselves first, but that's where we can't give energy if we don't have energy. So our influence starts with ourselves. And then if you look at the compass, there's several different directions. Obviously, it's a compass. But if you look up, this is leading up. And this is the one I use a lot in companies when I'm dealing with lower level or mid-level managers. Because often they don't understand that you have to manage up just as much as you have to manage down. Sometimes even more. And that's okay. How do you do that? Do you influence your boss? Now, most of you are independent contractors, I realize that, but I'm sure you've probably in your lifetime, looking at the average ages in here, you've worked for somebody somewhere, sometime. So how do you manage up? Again, it always starts in the middle. It always starts with you. Working with a client now who has a new boss that she does not like. So I'm working with her to learn to manage up. She may not can change her boss, but she can learn how to manage the situation, or she probably has to leave. Those are the options. But you can't just say, well, they're telling me, and I have no control over this, because you do. You do. So managing up is an art in and of itself. Now, there's also the south of this is positional leadership. And this is the one that often gets people in trouble. Positional leadership is I'm in charge. So, Frank, you have to do what I said because I'm the boss. And if I'm paying for his paycheck or signing his paycheck, he's going to have to do it. He doesn't have to like it. But how long do you think that person's going to stay? Not very long. Working with another client who has a boss that she's not happy with, and she has very distinct reasons not to be. So I'm helping her understand that she can look for another job. Because there's only so much influence you have, but if you are in a leadership position, whether it's at work or at home, if you're a parent, if you're a spouse, how you manage down is incredibly important. And being intentional about that is important. Because if you're in charge, your child has to do what you tell them to do. They don't always. But they really don't have a choice. So you can yell and scream at them to do it, or you can work gently with parenting tips and skills. You still are the person in charge. And so many leaders don't always understand that. Someone just shared with me, their boss wrote an email, somebody in the office obviously had upset her. And she sent out an email, I am demanding respect from all of my employees.
All right then.
When she showed it to me, so I know it was real. And I went, oh my goodness. You can't demand respect. You can demand someone follow you if you're in control of their livelihood until they figure out somewhere else to go. So influencing up and down, and then there's influencing across. And we're going to spend most of our time here today because you're in sales. So most everybody in here, everybody in support. So everybody's in sales. You know, I say everybody's in sales. You're selling something. You're selling yourself. You know, I'm selling all the time. If I don't have a client, you know, they run out, right? You spend all your time on these clients without selling to potential clients. All of a sudden, there's nobody there. So this peer level, the East and West of peer leadership, is where we're going to spend a lot of our time. We often think we don't necessarily have to influence the people that are equal, for lack of a better word, or on our same standing. But we'll get to that in a minute. There you go. So the importance of that is, even if you're an independent contractor, you know, I am an independent. I have contractors that work for me that do my social media, do my website, all of those things. They're my peers in many ways, but I have to influence them and they have to influence me in a positive way. Because otherwise, we're not going to meet a common goal. If we're not influencing each other in a way that we're all moving toward the same goal. If you're in a company, often you're forced on a team. And just because we're talking about influencing your team members doesn't mean you have to like them all. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. But you still have to have that influence, that level of influence, East and West. So those are, I think the compass is a really good visual of how we are in the center of our world of influence. And then what do we do with it? Leading up, leading down, leading across. Because we're leading one way or the other. So let's be intentional about how we're doing that. So now we're going to switch gears, talk about something that you said a minute ago. Oh, first of all, the pens. These pens have become my calling card. I've had them about 4 or 5 years, ordered a million times. And it's interesting to sit and watch people try to figure out how to open them. So I heard somebody say they don't work. They do work. And it's right on the side. I have watched people in workshops take them apart. I've watched them do this. I've watched them do this, and I've watched them say, this pen just doesn't work. It works. So it's become kind of a thing. I go around town now and I see people with this pen. And by the way, it writes really well. So what I'm going to do now is switch gears a little bit and talk about you and your personality. And Frank, I know you've been through this with me. So I'm going to try really hard not to pick on you. I'll pick on somebody else. But I would like to have 4 volunteers.
Oh, you want me to come up then?
I do. I want to. 2 more. Go for it.
Ron.
The other 2 can stay at your seat while I work with these 2. Okay,
Ron, you can stay.
Heather,
Heather.
well, I think we have one here, one here. Okay.
Heather really wants to do it.
Okay, y'all decide that while I work with the first two. You can have a seat while I work with them. All right, now I'm gonna sit over here. So what I want you to do is pick one of these three items. What's your name?
Monica.
Monica, pick one of those items. I don't want you to pick one. I don't want you. Sorry, that's her. What's your name?
Hello.
listen to instructions, Hillary.
Hillary. Okay. And so we got Hillary and Monica.
Sure.
No, that's not right. What's your name? Say it again.
Monica.
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 Yeah.
It's the simple things they did. What do you have, the cup?
I do.
Okay, what I want you to do, Monica, is sell that cup to her.
Ooh.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Can you give me a copy?
I've heard that.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said.
Can I get a copy? She said yes. Then I wait.
I want her to buy the cup from you.
Well, she cannot give me a copy and she has a copy.
Okay.
Okay, I'll change this then. I'm looking for a present. I'm gonna look for a special. Can I put it here? Who's the special person? My boss.
Your boss.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
awesome. She's great with her team and I don't think she gets enough recognition. So I would like to give her something that lets her know how special she is to all of us.
Right, to empower her.
Yeah.
I love that. I can help you with that. How can I
Yeah,
help you?
awesome. So what would you suggest I could get her?
Corvette.
How about some then
That was good though. I like that, Hillary.
I'm in a budget.
What's your budget?
$10.
$10. Okay. A mug.
You think so? Actually, she drinks coffee every morning, so maybe that would remind her. Yeah.
That would be a great idea.
You told me. No. You-
You're selling the coach to her. Yeah. It's so much fun.
Good to you. Well then, I went all over.
That's
Well,
okay.
I think that's great. I will do that. Do you have that was that you want?
Actually, I do.
Guess what? I got two. And I'll sell it to you for $5 now. $5, how about 30?
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, here, thank you. Wow, I'm missing. So, $3.
All right. Okay, good job, ladies. You can have a seat.
Well done.
All right, who are my next two? One here? No. You have to sell something. What you do for a living?
He's a salesman here.
But either one. Pick one of them, pick an object.
What are we supposed to do?
Pick one of these objects to sell.
Oh my
So-
God. Okay.
And what's your name?
You wanna?
You don't pick one. Whoever picks the object is selling the object to the other person.
I have been very concerned with you not protecting your eyes walking over the bridge every day,
Yes.
you know? And there, the sun in Florida,
Yeah.
the UV light is so, the rays are so strong and you have such beautiful eyes, you need to protect them. Right here, I have these fancy protective sunglasses that will not only protect you, but let's see them on your face.
Okay, let's see. how
Let's
that-
see how they look. Oh, you know what I mean?
It's red.
That's that right there. And you're protected, you know? Would you like to sign here for them?
Would you like to sign
Ah, let's go.
Ah, there we go.
Well, for you, I have a great deal. They're normally 25, but today I'm gonna do them for $19.99.
Is there any kind of payment plan?
Because of 2023, we do have a firm and,
Klarna.
Klarna.
Klarna is what you see all the time.
take Cash App and I take Venmo, I take Zelle, I take Apple Pay, there's many options.
Okay,
Okay, we have a deal?
we got a deal.
All right. What was your name? And what is your name?
Ron,
Ron. Okay. All right, have a seat. Let's give him a hand. All right, so just remember that little game, all right? Just tuck it back there. We'll come back to that in a little while. But right now, I'm gonna hand you out, Lance, if you don't mind helping me, that would be great. This sheet of paper. And please listen to me closely because inevitably. Good morning. You just take one and. Vision. All right, so what I want you to do is look at all 4 sections. This is a behavioral assessment, personality assessment. Frank, this is the one. Do you remember what you were?
no,
Okay, I don't either, but so I was thinking this morning, I was racking my brains to
I
try.
was thinking that on the way over.
Yeah, so maybe it'll come back to us as we go through the process, because yours nailed you. I remember that in the workshop. But this is called the bank code breaker, and it's a very simple assessment. Normally I have cards for everybody, but it's cheaper, quite frankly, to do the paper. So that's why I do the paper, but I want you to read the values under each of the labels: blueprint, action, nurturing, and knowledge. And as you read through those 4, I want you to prioritize them. Number 1 is the one that you most resonate with. Number 2 is the second one. Number 3 is the third. Number 4 is the 4th. Don't overthink it. Just read the values. Yes, I know it's difficult because you have some in one and some in the other, and we'll talk about that. But there has to be one that the most resonates with you. And then 2, 3, and 4. So put them in order.
This is based on Kiersey's temperament theory.
It is not. Not that I know of.
It is, exactly.
It's
Yeah.
invented by a lady in, I don't remember where she lives, Cher, CHER. She's written a book called The Object of Fly. And she was a salesperson and she created this through a bunch of assessments she had taken. Maybe that's one of
Yeah,
them.
I'm gonna bet, you know,
Yeah.
'cause Myers-Briggs, Kiersey
Yep.
overlap a lot, and then this is very much the NFNTSGFP temperament stuff.
You know, when you do
Clearly.
this one or you do DISC, or
Yeah,
you do
yeah, they all
Myers-Briggs.
overlap.
And
yeah.
here's what I like about this, it's quick and easy.
Yeah,
And because I'm certified in both DISC and strengths, I've used this one side by side with those for about 1.5 years, once I got certified in this, to be sure that I really believed it.
sure, yeah.
And
absolutely.
it's been very interesting,
This stuff's phenomenal.
very
And the
interesting.
Myers-Briggs stuff, I mean.
Yeah, I
the
have
things that
always
happen-
been fascinated by those.
It's just the columns.
Just the
That's
cause.
our good word. We need really special direction.
There's only 4 choices. I am yet to figure out how the best to define it. Blueprint, action, nurturing, or knowledge. You're gonna come up with 4 letters in order of importance for you. Thank you. I only said you have 4.
No, no. There's some.
You have to be able to pronounce it.
No, you don't.
Duty.
Give about 30 more seconds, because I don't want you to really overthink it. It's not the Lloyd Sandus from Yale. Not Harvard. Drive you nuts.
Yeah, I know.
I'm happy to tell you, it's a Yale professor. that-
Oh, yeah, John was from.
Yeah.
But this is more. I thought it'd be strange to have you from Harvard. but
Yeah.
Maybe it was a protege or
Yeah.
things.
Okay, so I want you to write your code in this fashion, just across the top of the page somewhere. Whatever your first group of words, I'll use an example. My first one is action, so I would write A first. Just A, just the letter A. Then what was your second? My second is knowledge, so I would write the K second. Then your third one, the third is nurturing, I'll write that one. And then my last one is blueprint. So I am at A, K, N, B. So you're gonna come up with 4 letters that represent you. Just come in, the person that-
She was already.
Oh, she has this. Is everybody done? Could you stand up and tell us your 4 letters? What you just tell me your first letter for now.
N.
N, so nurturing. How many other N's in the room? If you're an N first, please stand up. Not a surprise, half the room. Were you unsure? Okay, so here's the deal. Let me tell you that, first of all, this is a quick test. I give people the 4 cards, they put them in order. But there's also an online portion where you can answer like 20 or 30 questions, I forget. And it gives you a score for each one. And very often you may score 5 on one and 4 on the other. So we can all be any of these things, but we are naturally more like 1. So when we wake up and we boot up in the morning, how we naturally think, act, feel, and behave is the top one. And when we're under stress, it's really the top one. Okay, so understand if knowledge is your last one, it does not mean you're not smart. All right. Or if nurturing, and people get really upset when sometimes nurturing is their last one. It doesn't mean you can't care and love and be nice. It's just not how you naturally are. Mine is third. I have to work on that piece. Just ask my children. Consciously do that. But I can do it when I need to do it. But first, I gotta get everything done. Then I'll ask you how you're doing. And as a leader, that's not always good. That's not always good because we have a lot of nurturers among our midst. And the client I told you I'm working with, I'm trying to help her look for another job because I don't think her boss is gonna move. Nurturing is her number 1. And I haven't met her boss, but I bet her boss is in action. Just by the scenario. So what I want you to think about here is not only what you are, remember you are in, I'll put my card up, you are in the center of the compass. So we have to know how we tick, how we act in order to really relate to other people. And often we don't, we just bulldoze our way in, whatever is our natural tendency, and think, even if it's unconsciously, that you're just like me. Why don't you understand what I'm telling you? Well, she's not just like me. You're a nurturer. What's your first name? Hillary. Oh, yes, well, sorry. Hillary is a nurturer. I am not a nurturer, as we talked about. So if I know I'm going to sell something to Hillary, I gotta slow down a little bit. And I gotta say, Hillary, normally I'd say, where's that project we're working on?
And I feel like.
Right, right. And then I'd walk out, she'd give me the answer, I'd walk out and she's sitting there going, oh, what's wrong with her today? I haven't even given it any more thought. I just needed the report. I'll ask you about your kids later. I'll get to it. But by then, she's not really wanting to talk to me anymore. That's what happens.
I'm a 4.9 for action.
Okay, that's what happens every day. So when we go through each of these, I want you to think about yourself and if it fits. And occasionally people change their mind once I go through it the way I will, and that's okay. But if you do change your mind, take it home and ask somebody really close to you. Teenager, a spouse, a best friend. And they can go through it and they can help you figure out what you are, because we don't always see ourselves the way others see us. But
Well, no, my teenager, she tells the truth in all things.
yes,
You know,
teenagers, that's why I always specifically say a teenager. You're wearing that today, Mom? Well, I was. So think about a client. Because the purpose of this is not only to know yourself, but how can I quite quietly figure out what my client's personality is, so that I can intentionally sell something to them the way they will hear it. And we'll debrief these little role plays in a few minutes. Okay, makes sense? So our nurturers are just what it says. They're caring, they're loving. Often if you're in an office setting, everybody's in their office. People go to them, naturally gravitate to them because they're welcoming. They care about people first. Doesn't mean the rest of us don't, but we don't outwardly show it as easily as these people do. Okay, these are typically your teachers, often, sorry, got my wrong notes here. These are your social workers, your nurses, nonprofit leaders very often have this nurturing as their number one. Okay, makes sense? That was pretty self-explanatory. How would you think you would sell something to a nurturer? If you go in to sell something, how are you gonna do that?
You gotta make a personal connection.
Gotta make a personal connection. Gotta make a personal connection. When Stacy, what is your number one?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ron, what's your number one?
I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. I don't think I followed the directions right.
So you guys who knows him well, what do you think his number one is?
Knowledge,
Yeah.
knowledge.
Okay, keep that in mind, the
Okay.
K or the B. But when Stacy was selling to him, she drilled in immediately. You walking on the bridge, I'm worried about you. I mean, she was talking and talking and talking and talking. If you're doing that with a nurturer, you have to back up a little bit. If you're with me, game on. So you know I'm an action, so you bring it to me, you tell me. But even if you're doing that with an action, you don't want to oversell an action because they're going to make their mind up in the first 5 minutes. They don't want the details. Just tell me what the product does for me. Tell me who else might have it. Tell me why it's important and give me the price. And I'll say yes or no. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so who are our Ks? Who had Ks first? Okay, stand up so we can see you.
Ron does too, he just doesn't know.
Yeah. Ron, would you listen to me go through?
I think I got it. I circled expertise in that line.
Okay, we'll go with that. So these are the people that want to know the details. Engineers, yep. When Ron was listening to Stacy, he didn't get anxious. He was just very much listening. Because a knowledge person wants all of those details. The knowledge person is the one that you want to bring. First of all, you want to be sure you're an expert in your field and don't BS them. Because they've already researched whatever you're selling them before you get there. If they ask you a question in the midst of a sales conversation, you want to be certain that you know the answer, or you admit you don't know it, but you'll get back to them.
Right.
Don't try to make it up with these people. And as actions, often we try to do that. So we have to know who we're selling to. Does that feel like it fits?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the flip side of things, if I'm the one doing the selling, I want to know everything about what I'm selling. I
Right.
want to know every little detail and how everything's gonna go.
You are well prepared.
Exactly.
Well prepared. Yes, and that's your knowledge. Does that feel right for you?
Yes.
Yeah. So what we say, and we'll talk about the blueprint in a minute, is the knowledge person reads the manual from front to back.
Ooh,
You're blueprint, Karen. Stick with it.
Yeah, the knowledge person reads the manual. They read the warranty. They want to know all of the details.
Sometimes we completely disassemble it and put it back.
There you go. That's exactly right. The researchers, engineers, as we talked about, analysts. So we need these people, right? Because then we have our nurture, or our blueprints. So if you're a B, you can have a C. The B was first on yours. Any blueprints in here?
It
Yeah.
was so odd in a room full of real estate agents that we should have had a lot more meetings.
Well, I'm not surprised we have a lot of nurturers because you're a lot of people. And then the knowledge. My husband's a commercial realtor, so he's a nurturer number one, but then he's a knowledge. So that's not unusual. I could have nailed you for a blueprint when you started looking at the Harvard happiness person.
and then.
What is your first one?
Mine's a nurturer, but I've done trainings on the Kiersey's model and the Myers-Briggs
Yeah.
for about 20-some years, so. That's what they come from. I'm a counselor.
Yeah, okay, that
Retired
makes sense.
counselor,
That's why
so,
nurturing.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I love this stuff because
Perfect.
it's really wonderful, but yeah, you're right, there are a lot of overlaps. It's easy to kind of
Lot
get into
of
the weeds with
overlaps.
the people, but I'm these,
Yeah.
I'm these, whatever,
Right.
but yeah.
Which
great
is,
fun.
we can bring them all out, right?
We all have all aspects
have
of
them all.
it, it depends on
Right.
how predominant the characteristics
Exactly,
are.
exactly.
And for me, like almost everything in this nurturing list is like,
Yeah.
and then everything else falls away.
Falls down.
Comparison, yeah.
So our blueprint is the person that writes the manual.
I do have a lot of lists.
Yeah. And they are the people that us action-oriented people need blueprints around us. Because our mentality is meet the deadline. It's not close to good. But they're the ones that dot every I and cross every T. So we need each other. But if you're working with a blueprint on a sale, again, similar to the knowledge, you really got to have your ducks in a row. You don't want them to send an email that's you don't want to send them an email that's grammatically incorrect. You want to be formal. You know, when you go into the office of a knowledge or a blueprint, often they're not going to come from behind their desk. A shake your hand is very formal. What was your first one?
Nurture.
Yeah, your nurturer is gonna do exactly what you do when I went in your office today. Pulls out the biggest chair, says, don't argue with me, I want you to sit here, I'm gonna sit over here. Bingo, I know he's a nurturer.
I never got
So if you go into someone's home or office and you see a lot of florals or a lot of flowers or the pillows are just right, often that's a nurturer.
That's Lance. He wants all the pillows right on the bed.
Not true. Age, the whole thing.
Okay, Roger, you said you knew where the pillows on the bed. That's a clue. No. So you're beginning to see how this plays out, right? You know, and when you have conversations with people, they can say little things and you go, I think they're enough knowledge, or I think they're a nurturer. An action. Okay, thank you. Sorry, you're the only one in the room. You're very needed.
I'm between blue and green.
Okay, perfect. So you have.
Yes, I have all the whiteboards.
Yeah.
I have all the templates.
Yeah. Yep. These are the ones that are office managers, teachers, lawyers, accountants. I want my accountant to be a blueprint. I want to make sure they know. And real estate agents, there you go. All right, and who are our A's? Yay. I knew Monica was an A. When I called her, and who was your partner? Hillary, and said, pick an object to sell. Monica was the first one to get here and pick the object. She immediately said, I got this. Look at how she's dressed. Actions, often you can tell by how they're dressed. Now, I did this for Dr. Lavassa's executive team at the college, and one of his provosts, she's in action, and it was a retreat, so she was dressed down. I called her up to the front. She said, I don't care how I look. I see her out in public and I'm like, no, okay, you say so. But they're very put together. She sat in front. Those are things I immediately know. This is probably an action. I'm always gonna be right, no, but the more you do it, the more you start realizing. Our blueprints are kind of over here in the back of the room because they're fact checking as we're talking. Our nurturers are probably sitting close to somebody that they're good friends with. You guys can have a seat. Our nurturers in the back of the room are our action, but first person to talk, speak up, to answer the questions.
That makes my friend.
What was yours? I'm sorry.
I'm a nurturing.
Yeah, okay. So you can start to figure out sometimes the type of car. Often action, when you're selling to an action person. And this is not, it always comes out sounding bad, which is why I always tell people I'm an actor, but it's not personal. But they want to know the prestige of what they're buying from you. That's why they wear what they wear. That's why they carry the purse they carry. Sometimes you can see their jewelry. So, you know, it's just little things. Now, as I say with all of these, whether it's DISC or strengths or code breaker, these are, and you can help me here, these are generalizations. I don't want you to walk out and say, oh my God, this is who I am, this is. They're all generalizations. You could probably describe it better than I can. So, but it is a good concept or a good awareness of your tendencies. Are all nurturers just alike? No, no. Who are my nurturers again? Okay. So we've got, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, sometimes you become something that when you're become for purposes of other people's acceptance, you kind of modify your personality to take on another personality trait, right? Because it's hard, nurture and action, for me anyway, it was hard to decide between the two.
Yeah.
But too much action, I don't do that well, so I have to pull it back and become more of a nurturer.
So the key there just is, I have to pull it back.
Yeah.
That's the key that probably that you're more of a nurturer. And for the Myers-Briggs, it's where do I get my energy from? I am an action first, but I can only do that for so long because I'm an introvert, very much an introvert. I have to have my alone time. That's why my husband plays golf. I have to be left alone and read and re-energize myself. When I give a talk or speech or presentation, it takes time for me to regroup. Doesn't mean I can't do it. Doesn't mean I can't be a nurturer, but I have to back off a little bit whenever I'm too people facing for times. And you have to adapt. I mean, I ran the YMCA and I had to raise money. So I had to talk to people. I had to get out and be an extrovert. But it's where I get my energy. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I'd like, could, and I don't wanna like
No,
step over
please.
anything like that.
Get to learn.
Because I am a very nurturing person. It's all about
That's
relationships.
it.
Yeah.
Key language. I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm talking to a nurture.
One thing that can help, well, going to Catherine's comments, when I do a training, I say, think about who you are when you're most being yourself. And that's when, not when there's any expectations, peel back all those layers of what work requires, or this customer requires, or the spouse, or being a parent, or being a caretaker, or whatever required. Who am I when I'm just being me?
Yep.
That's where you'll find that core, that nucleus of who you are. And where you probably live in this spectrum here.
Absolutely.
And if you want, if you're interested in learning more about this, some of the like the truity.com.
Yeah, I'm not familiar
website.
with that one. I'll look it up. There's so many out there.
I know.
Can't possibly know
I
them all.
use the actual tool for
Yeah.
Myers-Briggs for years and as I've got with
Yeah.
Lucy, but there's some online stuff you can do that's really good. And if you can see how they overlap, and then if you're not sure about which category you probably most identify with, not that it's important to box yourself in,
Right.
still. you can do these assessments and that can help you better clarify and help understand what the intent is of the temperaments that are represented here. So, okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that.
I think you mentioned who are you when you get up in the morning, when you wake
Right.
up and how you approach your day. That's the same.
That's where you
same
figure it
thing,
out.
The nucleus.
That's
yeah.
where you figure it out.
Where do you live? And then before the world makes you do
Because
something different.
exactly, thank you for sharing, because if when I was with the Y, I had to get up and get myself psyched up to go do the things I had to do during the day. Because that's naturally not what I would do, go be in a room full of people and, talk and do all of those things. So how I naturally feel is the key. And regardless, and I think this is what you were saying a little bit, regardless of what kind of assessment you do, you're gonna find that you are who you are. You are who you are. And if you are in a job that is not allowing you to be who you are, it's probably not gonna work for a long time.
Yeah.
And you can try to, it's her fault, it's my boss's fault, it's this fault, this client that I'm working with, she kept saying, I'm just stuck. So her homework for the week was to quit saying the word stuck. She was no longer allowed to say the word stuck. And some other things, that wasn't only her homework, but we start what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, kind of self-sabotaging ourselves. We start believing these, I call them voices in my head.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Self-fulfilling prophecy, that's what I was looking for. So our words and our actions play a lot into this. But you can start, and I gave you kind of the little cheat sheet, you can think of a client you're working with and go down this list and say, And then you approach them differently. If you walk into an actions office trying to sell them a product with a whole manual, you're probably out of luck. It's not going to work well. Now, I want you to think about what your third code is. Look at your third code. Well, it's already been done. This is what we call your stress code. And I'm going to give you an example. My first code is A, my third code is N. My 41-year-old daughter's first code is N. So when we're together, and Mama goes to the house to help, she has a 4-year-old, what do you think I do when I go in? Straighten up. Get the dishes out of the sink. Straighten up the pillows on the couch. Let me pick up the kids' toys. And Haley, my daughter, is going.
Oh, I should have said I look straightened up. I don't know if you.
Yep, I'm busy, I'm doing something. That's how I think I'm helping her. She could care less. Mom, can we just sit down and watch a movie? There's dishes in the sink. So I have to know when I'm driving to Jacksonville, I'm not there to, in her mind, judge her house for key cleaning skills, but I'm not there to help her clean her house. I'm there because she wants to spend time with her. Now we have a 3-day rule. Because in 3 days, I gotta clean that house, whether she likes it or not. So that's a very simple example of knowing what someone else needs from me. We don't want to walk around and say, well, this is just how I am. Right. Because that's not going to get you very far. When you're dealing public, you have to learn to adapt to other people, especially when you're trying to influence them. Which is why I put these two topics together. Being a person of influence, I can do a 2-hour workshop on that and do a 2-hour workshop on code breakers, but I think they, and I'd love to know your honest opinion. I think they come together. And knowing who we are can help us understand how we're influencing how we're influencing other people. And how can we adapt? And it's very interesting at home to use these techniques. My husband is a nurturer. I just want him to take the trash out. And you know what? Because he's a nurturer and he wants to make me happy, I never have to tell him to take trash out anymore. No, the first year, a few times. And because I'm in action, he knows. And I know that sometimes I just have to let his socks stay on the floor. It's not worth the hassle. Socks on the floor drive me crazy. And it doesn't bother him at all. You know what? He takes out the trash. Or he cooks breakfast every morning. So we give and take, as opposed to this is the way I am, and this is the way I want my house. Well, maybe you should live by yourself. You know, so it works in sales, but it works in influencing every aspect of our life and every person that we come into contact with. So the last exercise, have 5 minutes?
We have.
It's till 11:30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
So I want you to take this document. And some of you are gonna struggle with this, and you struggle with the other one. Because you had a lot of words on these pages. So while they're handing those out, listen very closely. There's about 40, I think 42 numbers on this sheet. Oh, I copied it up. Yeah, the copy pattern, got my copy set on the wrong thing. What I want you to do is think of as you read each statement, your very first thought of these are motivators, let me back up. These are things that motivate you. So I want you to think, is this a very important motivator for me? Somewhat important, not important at all. And by each statement, you're gonna write VI, SI, or NI. So very important, somewhat important, not important for every statement. And there is a front and a back.
What's our perspective? Like, is there somebody?
What motivates me? Does this motivate me?
Oh, okay, understood.
Yep. About another minute. We did the front and the back. No, you don't have to. turn it.
This would be good to know how a coworker likes to be recognized. That's what I was thinking.
Many people change their order
I'm
by
sorry.
the end of this.
I'm sorry,
Do you think many people change their order
of their bank
bank
code.
values? Yeah, at the end of it.
Some people do.
Yeah, I think I'm changing. Wait a minute.
I have one person who's taken it like 3 times and I told her, I said, Deanna, do not take it again. We're gonna sit down and figure out what you are. It depends on the day of the week, how she answers that.
You know, as we get older, it's good development. if
Yeah,
you're able to
absolutely.
kind of move around in all this categories, so you can do whatever the situation requires. So but then in the process, we sort of lose that nucleus, like, you know,
We
that's.
still are who
this
we
is not
are.
gonna get back to who
We are who we are.
and why you're burning out because you're not being who
Right.
you are.
And under stressful situations, I can only speak for myself.
Revert
I'm more
back to
familiar
who
with
you are.
this.
Yep,
I, like I said, I know this better. I go into a strong C.
oh, yeah.
Because DC, because
Yep.
I need to perform, I need to be organized, and in a certain stage of my life recently when that happened, my eye withered away, and it was so painful that once I was able to, come out of that stressful situation, there was such a big focus for me to like rehydrate that eye and
Yep.
bring it back out.
And be intentional about it.
Yeah.
But your C and your B in the bank are the same personality. That blueprint and that compliance, that they're very similar. Very similar traits.
The stress I noticed makes a big difference somewhere.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Involved.
Yep.
I would say, especially in like real estate has brought this out in me. Before this, I worked for a church and ministry and all this other stuff. So real estate has brought it out in me. When I'm with my colleagues, I feel like I am more like, when I'm working the back end of the deal and everything, I'm a driver, like I'm an A. But when I'm with somebody personally or my customers, I'm a nurturer. Like it's really. Yeah.
So as we said, your A and your N are maybe a point apart. They may be a point apart.
And
But
that's why
watching you up here, I had you nailed as a nurturer. Just your whole demeanor, your smile, your eyes, and I forgot what you
And if I
said.
get overwhelmed by all the A stuff, then I need nurture, like, that's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
You
let me
said
just go
something in the
volunteer and
whole
I'll do
letter.
better.
You were leaning forward, more interested in making sure she made this out. You were gonna buy it. Now, you did negotiate a little bit, but you were going
That's the job.
to buy it, right? So again, they're interchangeable, but you're natural in this.
And it's so, the whole cleaning thing. So that is, when I go to my sisters, my mothers, my friends with the babies, anything, I automatically go in and my nurturing tendency is to clean their house for them and make it nice and beautiful and then put them to bed and take care of the kids. But you're saying that might be an A, so.
Yeah, but it
like-
depends on why you're doing it.
And remember
What makes
what I
you feel.
said. You can do any of them. But what did they want you to do?
Right.
And you just said, you're doing it, you're putting them to bed, you're doing that out of nurturing. I'm doing that because she needs to keep dishes clean.
Right, yeah.
And it makes me feel better if I say I'm helping her by doing that.
Got it.
And we joke about it. I mean, I just spent 4 days with her. We travel together a lot, like, we love each other, but we understand each other. She knows if she's having surgery or whatever at the bed, I'm gonna come for a short amount of time, make sure everybody's taken care of and, she's taking all of that stuff and then her friends come and take over, that kind of thing. So we just know that about each other. Still the first person she calls when she needs something. And right here, and then I'll come back to you.
If you went to your biggest client's house, would you start cleaning it up?
No, I might be a little judgmental, but I'll start cleaning it up. But it would pretty quickly tell me something about that.
I understand that. I
Yeah.
understand that, but,
Yeah,
no,
But the point is, looking at their environment starts telling me something about them. Listening to their words start telling. How long is it gonna take us to close this deal? Might be dealing with an action. I need to get the papers ahead of time so I can read everything. You might be dealing with a knowledge. So listen to the words.
It's so spot on that you said the number 3 was your stress one. I'm just curious if that is accurate for everybody
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, it's good.
Somebody tell me more. Go ahead. I don't want to-
Being the knowledge guy, all right, it shouldn't be much of a surprise that my number 2 is blueprint. I wanna know everything about this product, then I wanna have a game plan. When it's time for me to pick up the phone, anxiety, I don't wanna do it. I don't feel prepared enough, even though I'm more prepared
You're more
than
prepared than anybody.
anybody I could possibly meet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my husband and I had this conversation the other day. I like to text and email. Remember,
Yeah,
nurture is
same.
my third. My husband is a nurturer. We're in the car traveling last weekend and somebody texted, he said, I don't know why they just don't pick up the phone. I just want to talk to people. And I said, honey, they may not want to talk to you. You're just sending, if they texted you, text them back. I think you're just, so that's, that, and I can't remember what his third code is, it's probably A, but that's the whole point. You know, that we know what makes us tick. And then how can we adapt to influence someone else that thinks differently than us? Because that's really what it's about.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding how number 3 is your stressor. Can you maybe
Yep.
say it again?
Yeah, if you're, and his example was a good one. Your third one is in.
My third one was action.
Okay, so taking the action, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily making, which means your fourth one is nurture.
Yeah,
Okay, so between those two,
building on myself is on the back end,
yeah, right.
and I'm somewhat apathetic. Doesn't mean I don't care about people, but I
Right.
don't display it.
Right.
A lot of people
Openly.
do.
Got it.
So I would have to really try to tune into you, because knowledge is my third.
Yes.
And I really just want to be like, oh my gosh, just trust me, I'll get it, don't worry about it.
So this is an example of your
Yeah.
question.
Yeah,
Her third one is knowledge, so that's her stress code. If they're working on a project together, what's your name?
Hey,
Abe?
Yeah.
Abe is dotting all the i's, crossing all the t's, reading all the manuals, reading all the rules, reading all the guidelines. Hillary.
yeah.
Hillary, your first one with that. No,
You know,
yeah,
I,
Abe.
so I just wanted to trust me.
Right.
I feel, I know, but-
We don't really need to do all that. We know it's gonna turn out okay. And then he's like, well, it may, but we're gonna do all this anyway. So the more he concentrates on all the knowledge and the blueprint stuff, the more anxiety it's causing her. Because she just wants to do it and get it done and be told she did a good job.
just wait until she sees me disassemble the product to see how it works and then put it back together.
So that third one is what can cause anxiety for you. When someone has your third code, just like my third code is in, my daughter's first is in. So we have to work through that. Does that help? You don't look clear.
That's nothing to do with Karen, I can tell you.
I was gonna say, maybe offline, you do a good job there.
Nothing with Karen.
Yeah, because those are the two examples.
To answer Abe's question, no, I don't identify my third as a stressor.
What is your third?
An A. in
Okay.
action.
Okay.
Really, ironically, knowledge is my fourth. But, and nurture is my second, but that would probably be my stressor, because a lot like you, I write the email and then I add the fluff in the beginning and at the end. Because I'm not a fluffy
You
person.
know you gotta do
Like,
that,
I
yeah.
write an email and I said,
That's a good point.
yeah, I'm like, I write an email and it literally is 2 sentences and it's very direct. There's no hello. I don't address the person, no joke. And then I have to stop because I've
Yeah.
learned. Okay, fill it in with the beginning.
Yeah,
Good morning, Megan. I
Right.
hope that you had a great weekend.
Right.
I hope that the surfing was wonderful for you. Then I go at the end and I say, really looking forward to working with you.
Same way when I'm writing.
Like, I literally have to do that. Probably at 95% of my emails, but, to the point of going into other people's homes, what I found, because although I haven't studied this code breaker, but in general, different personality types, I found that if you could start to easily identify different personalities, and when you're starting to work with them in the field, you're able to really lean into what relates and what resonates with them, so that you're fulfilling their needs. And it's a lot easier to morph and transition between the different personality types to become who you need to be for that person. And then another thing I wanted to mention is really knowing yourself well and identify what you perceive as support, and then surrounding yourself around those people who support you because they give it to you in the way that it is important, is so much more important than saying, you're my mother, daughter, or cousin, and you're supposed to treat me this way, because they don't necessarily know how to do that, because they're just not built that way. And so if you need support, it's important to surround yourself with the people who provide the support the way that you receive it, and not expect it from people because of a familial relationship. And on the other side of it, when you are going to be that support, to remember someone else doesn't receive the support the way that you perceive it as help. Because there's a difference between helping somebody and just being there for yourself.
Right. So two different things here. Seek first, understand. That's really what you're saying, and that's what this is all about. And then results through people. You are going to get more results through people when you meet them where they are. So these two statements, you can't write on the wall, but you could here. Because that's what all this is about. We're not changing who we are. We're adapting to the situation.
And not everybody has the ability to do that around us. So the
Oh,
burden
no,
becomes
they
on
don't.
us to have to do it
They don't.
because we know better, you know, so it's a burden to know better. Like when I had my surgery, I didn't go home. A bunch of you know that I went to my aunt's house because I knew my family couldn't give me what I was gonna need. So I put myself in a position to be around somebody who gave me what I needed so I could heal.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
So, yes, ma'am.
about it, but
I'm a nurturer, but when I start working with technology, I get like that.
Yeah.
Where I don't put in little nice things, and I have to go back and do that.
What's your second one?
Knowledge,
Okay.
but I get, if I'm in technology and I'm writing to someone about something in my business, I just forget
Put
to
it out
do that.
there, right?
It's all just all business
Right.
right then.
Right. And that again is situational. So you're rising to the occasion in a different manner. Again, we can use all four of them.
I was just gonna say, you have to be careful too, because you make sure you're guarding yourself, because when you're with that personality that is your stressor, your third block, they suck from you,
Right.
they take from you, and it's not intentional.
It's not
just
personal. That's my
not-
favorite saying in the whole world. It's not personal.
And you have to be I have to be very careful, because then I start to judge myself,
Right.
because it starts to interfere with my results.
Right.
And like nurturing, I can't relate to that person at all. Like, I don't relate to manuals.
Yeah, me either.
They sit in a
Yeah.
pile and then they just decay.
Yeah.
But they suck the life out of me.
Yeah.
I agree.
Truth, sister. I'm with you.
Yeah, I agree. So look at your motivators. And I want you to count how many you had that you marked VI. How many did you have that you marked very important? So somebody just shout out how many you had.
17.
14.
11.
Hillary. My nurturers, yeah. Who had 11? Did somebody say 11? What's your first code? What's your first code?
Apparently, I consider myself a nurturer.
Okay.
You're a knowledge.
What was your second code?
Nurturer.
Knowledge.
So I think we have to be careful that if somebody says they're one thing, then you say, no, you're not. Especially in a work setting, because sometimes we don't really know that person. Especially if they're in a work setting where they're strongly adapting. Now, we can give them suggestions. Think about the way you handle a contract. Think about the way you handle your paperwork, how organized is your, and they might start seeing that maybe nurturing is not my first. But when people gravitate toward one, most often that's right. It can change, and as you hear the descriptions, I think somebody said, I think my third one is different now that we've talked through it. Where was I? Motivators. Okay, so you had 11. Anybody else have less than that?
Oh, I have 11.
Okay, you have 11 as well. All right, I want you to, in just about 2 minutes, go through the ones that you marked very important and read them again. Just the ones you marked very important. And I want you to remark them. Either they remain very important, or maybe since you have a smaller list, they're somewhat important or not important. I'm sorry?
I don't even have 9.
Okay, go through those 9. You won't have time, or sometimes. You won't last too long.
And mine went down.
Okay.
So do your very importance coincide with what you get?
Not really, they can. So what are our numbers looking like now?
One with the time.
You got rid of 1.
Did y'all get rid of the same one?
19. So we're not gonna complete this for the time. The goal is to get to your top 5.
Wow.
Hillary.
Because then you find out what really motivates you and drives you.
Okay.
And if anybody in this room is into goal setting, I'm a huge goal setter. I do a workshop every year on that. This helps you set your goals too. Vision boards, a lot of people do. When you know what motivates you, it's a good tool. And when you work with people, I mostly use this. I decided to throw it in here just because I like the exercise. Really doesn't have a lot to do with the influencing thing, but when you manage a team, often I go in and do this on the team and then give the results to the supervisor. Because not everybody, we should not treat everybody the same way. Different people want to be treated different ways, and we find out what are the things. I may say Monica's doing a good job and I'm going to give her a raise, and she may have preferred an extra week of vacation. And so obviously there's rules and things you have to follow, but the point is what motivates you to do what you do. Good. I'm just so happy. Good job. All right. So I want to leave you with this. When we influence people, there's 3 places we influence people. I said we influence people all the time, every day, every second of our day. But there are 3 certain moments in time where we can really be impactful. And one is what I call teachable moments. Think of teaching a 16-year-old how to drive, or a 15-year-old.
It's not fun.
It's not fun. But I still remember to this day, my grandmother teaching me to drive. It was a teachable moment that she influenced me in something that stayed with me the rest of my life. I'm teaching a 15-year-old granddaughter to drive because her mother refuses to do it right now. I have a lot more patience at this age than I did with my kids. But these are teachable moments. Teaching a child how to eat. Those are moments in time that if you stop and think, I'm really influencing someone here. I'm really impacting. The other are the second one is breakthrough places. We can't always influence someone if they're not open to being influenced.
That's true.
You can't coach someone that's not coachable. In my executive level contract, when I coach executives, that's in the contract. I have to deem that you're coachable. And it's a reason for me to stop coaching someone. Because if you're not open, but when they are, the breakthrough. So you have to be in tune, again, where is the person? I can beat my head against the wall all day long to try to get somebody to understand something and influence them, but if they're not ready to hear it, Lance said it today, whoever's here will be here. And Frank and I had that same conversation. You're here because you're coachable. Now, whether you got anything or not, I don't know, but you at least were open to being coachable and to gaining knowledge. And then the third place is catalyst times. When there's tragedy, there's trauma, there's an emergency, we want to be influenced by someone that can take charge and get things in order and done. You may be the person in the room to do that. So those are 3 times that you can kind of look for. Teachable moments, breakthrough moments, and catalyst times. People often say they don't really want to be led or they don't want a boss, but most of the time they do.
Yeah.
They just want the right one and the one that cares about them. And I'll leave you with these 2 sayings, and I read them because I always get them backwards. 80% of leaders attract followers. Leaders can get people to follow them. And that's that positional leadership we talked about at the very beginning. But only 10% of leaders attract leaders. Do you want to be the leader that attracts followers, or do you want to be the leader that attracts leaders? A lot of leaders don't want to attract anything but followers because they want to stay in charge.
And what makes the difference? What makes a leader attract leaders?
That's a whole nother workshop. But part of it is what we've been talking. The reason I use the quote in this particular workshop is because we want to understand where people are. And the more we do that, the more they're going to want to follow us and be influenced by us, and maybe even learn from us and move on to better places than what we achieved. That should be a happy moment for a leader. You know, I can remember having YMCA CEOs call me and be mad because somebody left for another job that was a higher paying job and a promotion. Really? Yeah, I'm sad I'm leaving them, losing them because they're a good person and they're a good employee. But my whole job is to want them to move up and be better. We all want that for the people we love and care about.
And it opened up the space for you to then train the next person. For them.
One of my favorite times, and you can probably relate to this, is getting calls from people that worked with me. And now I went to Jacksonville. My mother was sick, so I had to go spend 3 weeks with her. So I called my friend who still works for the Y, and I said, hey, can you give this old retired CEO a 3-week yes pass to the Y so I can go work out? So she emailed the VP over this particular Y, and he immediately responded and said, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Teresa. I hired the guy as the fitness director, and he's now a vice president running 3 of their Ys. And that was the coolest thing. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And so those are good leaders. You know, those are good leaders. And learning to influence people as a leader is an important trait. It's an important skill that can be learned, can be taught. And there's a whole, you know, some people, leaders are born or leaders are taught. I think leaders can be taught. When I first got in a leadership position, thank God somebody taught me some things, because it may have been my last. Right? So we influence people all the time. Which way do we want to, how do we want to influence them, positively or negatively? And there's 3 questions at the end of every day. What went right? What went wrong? And what can I do differently? What went right? What went wrong? And what can I do differently to influence people in a more positive way? Starting with you, the center of your compass. So thank you. Thank you for having me, Lance.